Today's daf is daf Chaf Ches, and we're up to Shenemar Uvo. And this is Rabbi Akiva's drasha that the Maima Bodek, the Baal, the Boel, just like the Bodek the Isha. And the Gemara now is going to vacillate back and forth about the exact nature of Rabbi Akiva's drush. So we're up to Iboilahu, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 10 lines down from the top. Bo uvo ka'amar, and this means that Rabbi Akiva is darshaning the vav of uvo, so that the vav is superfluous, and it basically doubles up the bo, as if it said bo twice. That's one possibility. The second possibility is uvo k'omar. He's not darshaning from the extra vav, but rather because the word uvo appears twice. Once it says in pasuk Chof Beis of Bamidbar Hey, and that's uvo va hamayim ha'ma'orim l'morim. And then, if you fast forward to psukim in pasuk Chof Daled, uvo va hamayim ha'ma'orim l'morim. So from the fact that it says uvo twice, according to the second side in the suffix of the Gemara, Rabbi Akiva derives that there's a double power in the b'dikas mayim that includes not just the isha but also the boel. Toshma, let's see if we can find a parallel kind of a drasha in Rabbi Akiva, and basically from that parallel drasha we'll see the methodology of Rabbi Akiva's drashos. And according to this Mishnah, we see that Kishem Shasur Lebal Kach Asur Lebol Shenemar Nitma'a V'Nitma'a. So it seems that Rabbi Akiva is adding, based on the fact that Torah added the vav, that gives us like a double iser, that she's asura not just to the Baal, but also to the Boel. So the methodology of Rabbi Akiva then is the extra vav. Says the Gemara, Vadayan Tiboy, that I'm not convinced that you have any proof based on the Mishnah, because it could be that Rabbi Akiva was saying that we darshan nitma and nitma from the fact that Torah twice says nitma, because it says in pasuk Yudalid v'kina es ishto v'hi nitma, and then in pasuk Chav Zayin it says v'hoisa im nitma v'timol mal be'isha. So once again, we don't know in this drasha about Eskal Lechel Balach Leboel or Nitma V'Nitma coming to Rabbi Akiva Darshan based on the extra vav, making it as if it said Tuma twice, once Lebal, once Leboel. Toshma V'Nikatoni B'Seifa. Let's derive from Rebbe's dissenting opinion. We'll figure out by inference what Rabbi Akiva's opinion was. Rabbi Omer, he doesn't accept the drasha of Rabbi Akiva. He has a different drasha, and that is Shnei Pa'omim Hamurim B'Parsha Nitma. That from the fact that it says Nitma twice in the pasuk, we're going to derive an Isa to the Boel. And it should say here the word Nitma without the Vav, because let's not confuse Rebbe with Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva maybe builds his drush on the extra vav, whereas Rebbe leaves out the extra vav, and his drush is from the twice nitma. So it says in the pasuk nitma, and then again it says asher tiste isha tachas isha v'nitma ech lebal v'ech leboel mitzal Rabbi Akiva vavi Kadarish. if Rabbi Akiva is darshaning the extra word, the kfelus haloshon, then there's no machlokas here, no room for Rebbe's comment. It must be that Rebbe disagrees with Rabbi Akiva on the methodology of drasha, whereas Rabbi Akiva sees in the extra vav as if the word was written twice. Rebbe never accepted that approach, and he requires that the word be written twice. So now that the Gemara concluded that Rabbi Akiva darshans the extra vav, and now he has ubo, so Hilkach, therefore, from the fact that it says ubo 3 times in the parish of Sotah, the Rabbi Akiva shisa kroik siva, we multiply that number 3 by 2, because in each case the vav gives us the ability to double it. And now we're going to go through the 6 halachas that are derived, or the 6 points, I should say, that are derived from the 6 times that it says bo. Now, one time when it says ubo b'shtiyas mayim, it says, let's read the pasuk, v'hishka es ha'isha es me hamorim hamaorim uvo ba mayim hamayim. So now it says ubo ba mayim, and this bow, the bow, is coming to teach us the tzavah dida. It's as if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is commanding the water that it should operate in this way, to make it a proof as to the guilt of the woman. V'chad, and another extra vav at the beginning of the teva, litzaval didei. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is commanding the water that the water should do whatever it has to do for the boil as well. Chad, now we're up to the second ubo, when the pasuk says, Vehishka es hamayim. Excuse me. V'hoisa im nitma v'timol mal b'isho vo ba mayim. L'asiya dida. Kadosh Baruch Hu is promising Bnei Yisrael that the water has that power to be bolik her. And v'chad, and one extra vav at the beginning of the word, is coming to teach us l'asiya didei. And that is for the boil, that Kadosh Baruch Hu is guaranteeing that the mayim will do what they have to do to check the boil as well. Now we have a third time. It says, in this case, uvo hamayim ha'ma'orim ha'elu b'meyach latzbos beten v'lanpil yorech, and that's coming to teach us liadia dida, that we are being notified that the way that the pasuk says it is not exactly the way it's going to happen, right? Because the pasuk has the nefilas yercha before the bitnot sivta. But in reality, the way it's going to happen, and this is what Hashem is notifying us, is that first it's going to be bitnot sivta, and then it will be tipol yirecha v'chad, and the extra vav at the beginning of the word is liyadia didei. The pasuk is telling us that even the boel is going to be checked with her, and he too will have bitnot siv va, and then afterwards tipol yirecha. And all of this is Kedei Shelo Yotziu Laz Al Hamayim. If the Torah didn't switch around the order, then if first Habeten would explode and then Hayerech, then people would say, well, this is not because of the water. I mean, the Torah promised us it would be the other way around, that the Yerech would come before the Beten. The Rebbe, who has this drasha of v'nitma that says it twice, he's not going to derive any conclusions from the extra vav. Is tlasa kroiksi, there are only 3 psukim. Chad l'tzavah, Baruch Hu is commanding the waters to do what they have to do and destroy the woman. V'chad la'asiyah, and the pasuk is guaranteeing with a divine promise to Bnei Yisrael that this mayim will do what it has to do to be bodika. V'chad liyidiyah, and one is to notify everyone that Sivta Bitna would happen before Tipol Yerech. So the Gemara asks now, for Rebbe, he doesn't darshan the extra vav, is the din that Kishem Shamayim Bodkim Oso, Kach Bodkim Oso, that the Mayim are Bodik, even the Boel, Minole, how does he derive that? And the Gemara answers, Nafkale, Rebbe derives it, from the drush that we learned in the Brisa, the Sanya. Now the Brisa first quotes Pasuk Chav Gimel, Latzbos beten vilanpil yarech, and this is referring to bitno v'yarecho shel boel. How do I know such a thing? The Brisa itself asks that question. Ata omer lebitno yarecho shel boel eino el lebitno v'yarecho shel neveles. Maybe it's her, and maybe the boel is not nivdak at all. Shu Omer, when it says later on in Pasuk Chav Zayin, Vitzobtza Bitna V'Nafla Yirecha. I mean, now it's written in feminine. Before it was written in masculine. Hare Bitna V'Yirecha Shal Nevelasom. V'Mani Makayim Litzvos Beten V'Lanpil Yarech. It's totally superfluous. So what do I do with that Pasuk? Bitna V'Yirecha Shal Boa. V'idach, Rabbi Akiva darshans from the extra vav in the pasuk vo that the mayim are bodik even the boel. What does the pasuk of latzvos beten v'lan pil yorek come to teach us? It's totally superfluous. And the Gemara answers hahu demodia lo lekohen, that the kohen notifies her before he's mashka her that even though in the klol itself the Torah was makdim the yerech, but nevertheless, before what's going to happen in reality after she drinks the water is that the bdika is the beten dereisha. First, her beten will explode, and v'hadar, and only afterwards yarech. Now, you might ask why does the Kohen have to notify her that? And again, it's kadesha lo lahotzi las al mayim amorim, that people shouldn't say, wait a minute, you promised us that it would be reicha first. This comment on the Gemara of notifying the woman that it's going to be the opposite and her beten is going to blow first, that's the Rambam Shita. But the Marshal says, why does she have to know anything? I mean, she's just in the process of dying anyway. But rather, we should notify those who are standing there and witnessing. They should realize that it's going to happen in the following order. The sequence is the beten first, and then the yerech. So the Gemara asks ve'idach. What about Rebbe? He darshans the pasuk even for the boel, that the boel is nivdak. So how does he derive the conclusion that we have to be modia, that it's going to be the beten first and then the yerech later? More answers that we can learn this from the psukim in both cases. In Cain, if the pasuk is coming to teach me only the seder abdika, lichtov kra bitna v'yerecha, it should say bitna v'yerecha in the feminine, referring to her. But why did the Torah say beten v'yereach? And that's a lashon zachar, or at least it could be a lashon zachar. Shma mina leboel. We're going to derive from this that even in the case of the boel, it's going to be bitno sava, and then Yerecho Nofelas. So maybe the pasuk is only telling me that the bowl is going to be nivdak. How does Rebbe know that it's also telling me the seder that the betin goes first and then the yerech? In Cain, if the pasuk is only telling me about the bedikas haboel, is lichtov bitno v'yerecho. It should have said explicitly bitno v'yerecho. Why does it say beten v'yareach as a lashon stuma? Shmamina tarte, the Torah is coming to teach me two things. Number one, that we have to be modia, the seder b'dikas hamayim, and also to teach us that the bowl is nivdak kimosa. Now the Mishnah says, Rav Yeshua kacha yedorish Zechariah ben Akatzov, Rebbe Omer, Shnei pa'amim ha'amurim v'parsha nitma v'nitma echad l'bal echad l'bol. Tan Rabbanan. Sholosh pa'amim ha'amurim v'parsha. The Lashon Tuma repeats itself in the parsha 3 times. We have the first is Chav Zayin, and then we have also Yud Daled, and then we have Chav Tes, and it says V'Isa im nitma'a. It says V'kinas ishto v'hi nitma'a, and then it says Asher tiste isha tachas isha v'nitma'a. Lam. So the Bryce is going to explain why the Torah needed it 3 times. And Echad, one time it used the Lashon Tuma, is going to teach me that she's Asur L'Ba. And then V'Echad, another time it says Tuma, it's coming to teach us that if she gets divorced from her husband or he dies, and he didn't get a chance to be mashka her, then she's Asura Labon. She's not allowed to get married to the boy. Echad, again, we don't know whether or not he was the boel because she didn't drink, but the one who's chashed to be the boel, and Echad, and then we need a Lashon Tuma to teach me Lechol B'Trum, meaning that she's Asura Lechol B'Trum and Divrei Rabbi Akiva. Now, at this point, we seem to see a stira in Rabbi Akiva, because the Mishnah says that he was Dorish Isur L'Bol from the Vav of V'nitma. Here, it indicates that he was Dorish it for the Kfelus of the Pasuk V'nitma. So the answer that's offered here is that the Gemara would prefer to ask that kasha later on from the Bryce itself. Amar Rabbi Yishmael, we don't need a pasuk to teach us that a sotah is asura to a kohen, and the Gemara later on is going to ask what's Rabbi Kiva was discussing the Isur Truma, and all of a sudden Rabbi Yishmael is discussing the Isur of Nesuin l'kohen. And in any event, Rabbi Yishmael's logic is that we could derive that a sotah is asura linasei l'kohen from a kal v'chomer. Ma grusha. In the case of a grusha, she cannot marry a kohen. Shemuteres litruma. If she's a bas kohen, then the Torah says, "Ubas kohen ki tiel almonu grusha v'zera einla v'shovel beis avia kinureo milechem avia tochal." So she's allowed to eat truma, and goes back to Beis Avia after the gerushin of a Baal to eat truma, but Asur Lakuna, a grusha is not allowed to marry a kohen. As it says, V'yisha grusha, v'yisha lo yikachu. Is zo, in the case of a sotah shenistera, shasur v'truma, is how much more so in a din sheyasur Lakuna. So you're more machmir in the case of a sotah shenistra than you are in the case of a grusha. And a grusha is asur l'kohen, so therefore it goes without saying that a safek sotah should be asur l'kohen. Now Rashi, for some reason, introduces that she's a Bas Kohen and she's Nesula Kohen, and she becomes Psula Milechel B'Truma. It's not real clear what Rashi is adding over here by saying that, that she's a Bas Kohen and she's also Baila Kohen. He could have just simply said Baila Kohen. That would have been enough. Now the Rambam in the 8th parak of Trumos writes that she's Asura Masmas Sofek Zona. And there's going to be a major machlokas achronim when it says that she's Asura Lechel B'Truma. What about B'Chadre Chadon? She knows that she was guiltless. Can she truma? Now the Brisa continues to explain the Lashonos of the Psukim in Parsha Sotah. It says in the Parsha that when the Baal warns his wife that she shouldn't go into stira, it says V'Avara love ruach kinah v'kineis ishto v'hi nitma'ah. Oh, avara love ruach kinah v'kineis ishto v'hi lo nitma. So there are two scenarios here. Either she was nitma or she was lo nitma. And it seems to be assuming that the nitma means vada. So is it tuma vadai, or is it a vadai shalom nivala? Mata melomer vi nitma vi lo nitma. And mimonashach im nitma, if in fact she was nivel of isur, let's say it's vadai, and it sounds like we're talking about vadai is lo mashosa. Why do you need a bedika? The im lo nitma, and if it's clear to us that she did not have this guilty be'ila, then again it's difficult. Lo mamashka. So why is she drinking for the meimorah? So we have no choice but to assume that the pasuk is not talking about situations in which we know for sure that she was nitma, or we know for sure she was lo nitma, but rather anu mesupakim shemehi nitma v'shema lo nitma. So we don't know whether she was in fact nitma or she was not nitma. And this suffix that maybe she was nivela because we don't really know, we have kini and stira, that suffix is a very powerful suffix, and it removes her cheskes tara. She has to drink for the meimarim to be mavarer her tara, and as long as she hasn't drunk from the meimarim, then she's asura. Mikan, from this din that the Torah said that a sotah shenisra is asur lebaila, even though it's only a suffix if she was nivelata done, you could derive from a kavach chomer li sheretz. So you have a suffix if he came in contact with the sheretz, or alternatively if the sheretz came in contact with taros, and we're going to be noeg. We'll soon see that's only Rosh Hashanah, but as if vadai nitmu. And this is how we'll derive it. Umas sotah. The Torah was mekil in sotah. Shlo asa ba es hanif elis b'shogeg kimezid. The Torah says umola bamal. It's got to be mezid. So if she was nivelis b'shogeg, she doesn't become asur al baila. And what could be a case of shogeg? Shogeg could be a case where, like they said, two couples and they had beer with the wrong woman, thinking it was his wife. She was an Eishes Ish. So all that is called shogeg. And ones kiratzon, the Torah did not consider ones like ratzon to generate an Israel baila. Nevertheless, also was safek kivada. All right, this we have to see what he means. Also, basafik kivada is sheretz sha'asa bo shogeg kimeziv the honest kiratzon, and udin shiasabo safek kivada. That after Kini and Stira, as we said earlier, the suffix is strong enough to be Motzi of Cheskes Tara, and now she has to drink the Meimarorim to be Mavar HaTara, but until she does so, she's Asura al Bailet. And the Gemara says, Mikan atadon li tumasheretz. And we're going to have a kalvachomer to tumasheretz. And let's say you have a suffix whether he came in contact with a sheretz, then, or let's say, for example, there was a suffix if a sheretz had maga, came in contact with taros, so we're going to consider this as if it's vadai tame. Umas Sotah shlo asa ba shogeg kimez, and the ones kirotza is asa ba suffix vadai is sheretz she asa ba shogeg kimezid. The ones kirotza, in other words, in Tum, it does make a bit of a difference whether it was nitma baratzon or shelo baratzon. Einudin sheyasa bo suffix kivada. Now, what's the proof that the Torah made Sotah into a suffix kivada? Maybe we deal with her as a suffix, and we have a principle called suffix doraisa l'chumra. So Tosfos here in our sugya says that suffix doraisa l'chumra min Torah, and therefore even without the pasuk being nitma, she would be asura l'bayla b'din suffix. But in Sotah, the Torah is makadesh that as long as she didn't drink from the meimarorim, she's asura l'bayla b'vada. And therefore, if he would have relations with her, then he violates an isur, even if al piyama she was tahora. And Reb Chaim in Hilchos Yibum v'Chalitza Perek Vav writes that we learned that Kedushin ein osrin ala yichud, so stira levad would not even create a suffix nus, but there's Xeris HaKosuv that through kinui a suffix nus is created, and then the Torah adds another chiddush. Not only is the Torah Makadesh that it's a suffix, but also this suffix is considered like a vada. But without a pasuk, we would have said that with Mamadar and Chazkasa, she's not even a suffix zone. But here in the Mesifti quotes a crazy place, it was medayik from Rashi, that we should derive that the Torah made a Sotah as suffix kivada from the fact that Sotah is asur l'boel, because he himself knows that he did not have relations with her, and therefore she's tahora, and yet the Torah says that it's asur on him, kivadai, because of the suffix that we have regarding him. And even though kemen shalanu boro shavadai bolos, in other words, for us, it's considered like we have a bira as if he definitely had be'ila. So the suffix became a vadai, the oser af lemishalo nistapik, even though he has no suffix at all. Now, the Minchas Knos says that we cannot bring a proof that Sotah is asu suffix kavali for the boel because me'achru machmasa nesra l'bayla l'chein asura gam lo. Rather, we're going to learn this din for Lisa Truma, that even though she's tining barili shani tahora mikom, she's not allowed to eat truma. It must be that because of the suffix, we consider it an isur vadai even on her. So we see that suffix tuma dino kivada.